What's up, everybody? So there's a new article on Patch.com written by John Ferrick, who is the author of Wrecking Crew, a book written about making a murderer and Stephen Avery's case. The headline of this particular article is Andrew Colborn tried to sue Jerry Buting, Dean Strang, and John Ferrick. Right underneath that, it states, for purposes of this case, I have agreed not to assert that making a murderer caused my divorce. That is something Andrew Colborn stated under oath in July. Now, Andrew Colborn is currently suing the Making a Murderer filmmakers and Netflix. However, his attorney, one of his attorneys, recently quit the case. I have a couple of videos up on that. If you scroll through, you will find them. Now, the articles state, Manitowoc County Sheriff's Detective Andrew Colborn's federal lawsuit against Netflix and its award-winning docuseries Making a Murderer includes sworn testimony that he gave this summer conceding Netflix did not cause his marriage to collapse and that he lost no income due to Making a Murderer. Making a Murderer did not cause Mrs. Maurer to avoid romantic involvement with me, Colborn declared in a sworn statement on July 21st. My relationship with Mrs. Maurer harmed my relationship with my ex-wife, Mrs. Colborn. My relationship with Mrs. Maurer also harmed my relationship with my adult children. Newly filed federal court records from Andrew Colborn's lawsuit against Netflix revealed. Colborn stated in the court filings that his divorce became final this past February, of course, so that would be February of 2022. For purposes of this case, I have agreed not to assert that Making a Murderer caused my divorce. I had a romantic relationship with Jody Maurer prior to my divorce from his wife, Mrs. Colborn. I moved out of the residence that I shared with Mrs. Colborn in January 2021. I moved back into the residence in March 2021. I began living with Mrs. Maurer at a shared residence in April of 2021. Andrew there did some moving around, didn't he? In 2018, the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Lieutenant, who was at the center of widespread evidence planting and police misconduct allegations in the October 31st, 2005 Teresa Hallbach investigation against Stephen Avery, retired from the law enforcement profession. In addition to sworn statements about his divorce, Colborn gave testimony about his previous intentions to sue Stephen Avery's criminal defense trial lawyers, Dean Strang and Jerry Buting. Now, Kathleen Zellner is Stephen Avery's current attorney. Dean Strang and Jerry Buting were Stephen Avery's original trial attorneys during the first season of Making a Murderer. Besides them, Andrew Colborn wanted to file a defamation lawsuit against this article's author, John Ferrick. John Ferrick, who was an investigative journalist for USA Today Wisconsin Network when Making a Murderer debuted in December of 2015. In 2018, John Ferrick published Wrecking Crew, demolishing the case against Stephen Avery. The true crime book was harshly critical of Andrew Colborn, revealing how Colborn went from being a Wisconsin auto mechanic to eventually head of the detective unit working the administrations of the Manitowoc County Sheriffs Tom Kasorik and Rob Herman. A person familiar with Andrew Colborn's Netflix case said that the statute of limitations for Colborn to file a defamation lawsuit against Strang, Buting, and Ferrick has now expired. He apparently approached several lawyers, but none of them agreed to take the case. According to this summer's lawsuit stipulations, the following statements have been entered into the court record for Colborn's pending lawsuit against Netflix. I believe that Jerome Buting has damaged my reputation in out-of-court statements about me that were made after the release of Making a Murderer. At one point, Mr. Colborn wanted to sue Buting for defamation. At one point, Mr. Colborn wanted to sue Mr. Strang for defamation. Mr. Colborn believes John Ferrick has damaged his reputation. At one point, Mr. Colborn wanted to sue John Ferrick for defamation. Mr. Colborn has not watched Making a Murderer in its entirety. You know, I don't know. Maybe he didn't, but I would have a hard time believing that he hasn't watched the entire thing. How are you going to sue somebody over a documentary if you haven't actually seen absolutely everything that's in it about you? But I don't know. What do I know? Mr. Colborn is voluntarily participating in a documentary tentatively called Convicting a Murderer that has not come out yet. I did a video on that I don't even remember when it was now, a while ago, months and months ago, maybe last year even. And the guy had put it up for sale, but at that point in time, no one has purchased it. I'm going to look up after this and see if there's any new information about that. And if there is, I'll do a video about it, which has not yet been released to the public. Mr. Cole, there's a trailer out though, I think. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I saw a trailer, maybe. Mr. Colborn voluntarily retired in 2018. Mr. Colborn had a retirement party. Since his retirement, Mr. Colborn decided to return to the workforce and was able to find new employment. Mr. Colborn filed for divorce from his now ex-wife, Barb Colborn, in March of 2021. Mr. Colborn's divorce from Mrs. Colborn was finalized in February of 2022. Why Andrew Colborn wanted to sue Stephen Avery's lawyers. Mr. Colborn felt that defense theories involving possibility that Stephen Avery may have been framed for the murder of Teresa Halbach were ludicrous. July's court stipulations outlined, he also thought that he was not being fairly portrayed by defense attorneys at Stephen Avery's trial. Mr. Colborn acknowledged in response to examination at the Avery criminal trial that the trial was the first time that he felt that his integrity as a law enforcement officer had been questioned. Colborn also indicated he was told making a murderer would be a hatchet job and not portray him in a favorable light. Well, if he allegedly didn't do unfavorable things, maybe he would have been portrayed in a more favorable light. So that's the newest update on Andrew Colborn's lawsuit against Netflix. He's talking about how it didn't cause his divorce, how it didn't cause him to lose any money, and that he tried to sue Jerry Buting, Dean Strang, and John Ferrick. What do you think of Andy Colborn wanting to sue Jerry Buting, Dean Strang, and John Ferrick? What do you think of his current lawsuit against Netflix? What do you think of one of his attorneys quitting the case? Let me know. Leave some comments below. I hope you're having a good day, and I'll see you again soon.